Just a thought I've had. Your perception, that same story, had he been spying on a, say, cheerleader next door, typical, how do you see that would be perceived differently in just the mainstream population? And or if it was, say, picked up by TV, I look at it as, your story would be late night FX with lots of parental restrictions, whereas the other may, be shown at 7 p.m. on CBS.
Well, that's interesting. I do think that there's a strong double standard. It's kind of what the it's a little bit what the film is about. I just remember reading an interview with Kimberly Pierce on Boys Don't Cry, where they gave her an X rating or an NC-17 rating, and then she made the argument, like, she compared her film with scenes exactly like that in straight films, and they were given an R rating. Basically, the point of the film is that I was. This is when Don't Ask, Don't Tell was being very heavily argued about 2 years ago when I wrote it, and I just saw that I read a thing on the internet where this supposedly, you don't know who people really are, but the soldier was saying, "I don't want a bunch of fags looking at me in the shower." And this was actually right around the same time that a female officer had done a lawsuit for sexual harassment. And it's like, it's all right for a straight guy to ogle, harass a woman, but it's like, don't do that to me. Like, I think that was a big part of the fear, was that what they were doing to women was going to be done by gay men to them. So that was sort of the impetus for making the film. And they're both wrong. They're both characters are like, but he's saying at the end, if I'm wrong, then you're wrong. It's not, and the straight guy says, well, that's different. It's like, no, it's not. So kind of answer your question? Okay. All right. Does anyone else go? Yeah, oh, okay.
How did the young actors handle the scene of the voyeuristic type stuff?
That was scary for me. I actually had a kid who had been on CSI playing a transgendered character on CSI, and I offered it to him, and he said no, that he was tired and he needed to go on vacation. And this kid was really, really campaigning for the part. He's done a lot of like Nickelodeon stuff and Disney stuff, and he really, like smart alecky kid kind of stuff, and he really didn't want his career to go in that direction. But he was 14, and I said no. I just felt like he was too young to be looking at bondage porn on the wall, and too young for the subject matter. But the casting director talked me into meeting with him anyway, so I met with him and his dad at this coffee shop, and the dad was like, looking at me like, what do you want to do with my son? And but he was really saying, this is exactly the kind of part I want to be doing. It's challenging. I really have something to do. And when he got up to go to the bathroom, I turned to the dad and I said, what do you think? And as soon as I said that, as soon as he saw that it wasn't me going, let me at your 14-year-old kid. He said, well, he had done a film called Miss March, I think, which was about Playboy bunnies. He'd already graduated from high school at 14. And they said he'd done a lot of adult content things and that they felt like he could handle it. So, and as you can see, I'm like incredibly happy I hired him because he's amazing. And he worked very hard and did like massive preparation for it. And but he was fine doing it. I was the one who was nervous about him doing it. But he was like very enthusiastic about doing it. And the other guy, the boy in the rich family is he's 19. So, but he also just was incredibly brave. I mean, it's just a little piece of what he was doing, but he had a whole thing in his mind. Like he did a whole thing like where he woke up. And he had this whole scenario in his head that he was imagining the girl next door had, like, he promised her, we'll just lay in bed, I won't touch you. And then he woke up and kind of, was like touching her, pretending he was touching her in her sleep and all this like creepy, really creepy things. And but he had really thought through the role too. And I just, when it's good, you don't really notice. Like when somebody's because he's so believable, it's like there was 20 people in that room. And it was 115 degrees. We shot it in LA in the middle of the summer during the day, so we had like black velvet over the windows. So it was incredibly hot in there, and he just looks like he's all by himself. And and to be kind of that creepy, dirty, and not pull any of your punches, not try to get anybody to think you're not creepy and dirty. I mean, I thought he was very brave. Both of them were very brave. Yeah. So. She was a joy. I have a friend in LA who had done a TV series with her called Maximum Bob about 15 years ago. And I'd met her at a party like 6 years ago. And we ended up having this 4 or 5 hour conversation. It's the only time I ever met her and ever saw her, and I never saw her again. And I didn't expect her to remember me. And I contacted her on Facebook and tried to, like every friend I knew, I had my friend send her an email, and she didn't answer at all. So the casting director had me write what she called a begging letter, because I wrote it with her in mind. So I wrote her this begging letter and sent it to her agent, and she responded right away. And she hadn't gotten any of the other emails. I guess she just gets thousands and thousands of emails. And she said, I know exactly who you are. I remember our conversation. I always wondered whatever happened to that guy. And she read the short and said I would love to do it. And I arranged the schedule so she only had to be on the set for 1 day. So, it was very little, it was one day out of her life. And but she showed up early. She was incredibly nice to everybody on the set, talking constantly, fooling around, I was like, who am I to be directing you? But she was absolutely great, and she was really kind to the other actors too. Like made everybody feel, like they were a big deal when she was the big deal. So I love her. Yes, please.
What was your? Do you feel as if you? What were your objectives in making this in terms of either artistic style, or tone, or anything like that?
And in terms of what?
In terms of artistic style or tone, do you feel as if you met the objectives that you set for yourself as a director?
I do. I mean, it was a little dark and a little quiet. The projection here, but I hate the term auteur, actually, because it gives an indication. Like, I did write it and I did direct it, but I didn't do that cinematography. I sat with the cinematographer. We worked for a couple of weeks just walking around that set and figuring out how we were going to shoot it, and I told him kind of the feel that I wanted, but I couldn't have done that. I didn't write that music. The editor is somebody I've known for a long time who's editing some reality dating show on TV, and he just feels like he's losing his mind because he has nothing artistic to do. And he did it for free. And I wouldn't know, like all of those things, like it's like I communicated my vision to people, but they took what I said and ran with it. The costumer, these are things you don't really notice, but it's like the rich family has a color scheme and the poor family has a color scheme. And at the end, the kid in the poor family, the gay kid, shows up in a green shirt. He's in the rich people's color scheme because he's like claiming, if it's all right for you, then it's all right for me. He's like sort of entering their world uninvited. So he thought through all of that stuff, and it's like, I got too much else on my mind. I would never have thought to do that. So I don't like the word auteur because there are too many. If you make a film the right way, if you surround yourself with the right people, you ain't doing it by yourself. It's my story and my vision, but that's like that's a huge amount of people with a huge amount of talent.
So cinematography and production design is particularly good.
Thank you. I totally agree with you. I told the music guy, that was actually the one, I went to film school and I realized I know how to talk about, I knew pretty, kind of how to talk about costumes. Like I wanted the poor family, like in Walmart stuff. I didn't want it to be cartoony cheap, but I wanted, like the young girl, like that blouse is polyester. And she's a very, if you look her up online, she's a glamorous young Hollywood actress from a very wealthy family, and she's wearing this, polyester Target thing. But I wouldn't have I told him what I wanted her to look like. It's like she's doing the best she can with the amount of money she has, but I don't want her to look cheap and cartoony. Like she's trying really hard to look pretty. And Darren Reed Goodall actually is, he was my production designer, and that swimming pool is in my friend's backyard, and it was covered with like black mold. Like they had a rim of black mold around it, and he and the producer got in the pool with bleach and toothbrushes and got it off. And it's like, he does Mad TV and I think iCarly and all. It's like, I was like embarrassed. I couldn't ask him to do that, but it's like that was his commitment to his work. He wanted that swimming pool to look good. He wanted it to look like it was in a rich house. So like the commitment that people had to their own jobs was amazing. So. And it goes by in 2 seconds. Like whoever, I'm sure nobody even noticed, but they noticed. So like the pride of their work. Is somebody else? Yeah.
Mickey's mom was so bizarre. Where did you come up with that character?
Oh no, it's a little my mom. I just thought about she's not entirely, I'm kidding, she's not my mom. But just, like the sort of the alcoholic desperation, like her life is, they live next door to each other, so clearly they used to have some amount of money and their lives are kind of collapsing. And so I was just thinking, if her life was collapsing, she's still very beautiful. I don't know if you guys know who Elaine Hendricks is, but she was in Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion. She was the stepmother in the Lindsay Lohan Parent Trap. She's very beautiful, and I had them put that kind of trying too hard, cheap makeup on her, which I think makes her look older. But I was just thinking, if she was on the skids, not as pretty anymore, and doesn't have any money, just sort of the desperation to get into I don't care, I'm not humiliated. I want to watch cable TV, it's like I want to watch HBO. When I thought about the kid, it's like, what kind of mother would he have that would say yes to doing that? And I just, just kind of that, alcoholism, desperation, but really loves her son, like the hug she gives him at the end, sorry I puked on the couch, you're a good boy, bye. So.
Are you working on any current films now, writing anything?
I am. I'm planning on shooting something next summer. I don't know if I'm going to shoot it here or if I'm going to shoot it in Los Angeles. It depends on who I get to say yes. It's a micro-budget film, under $100,000. I took this to Outfest, and I met a lot of people who are making micro-budget films. The way DVD sales are right now, and the amount of money you get if you show something on cable is so low that in order to make, according to these people, if you're going to make a gay-themed film, you have to keep your budget very, very, very low in order to break even and, of course, hopefully make a profit. So, but I'm writing a piece about a guy who's, if any of you know the 12-step programs, the 9th step is when you're apologizing to everyone. So this guy is he's afraid if he doesn't make his integrity perfect, he's going to drink again and do drugs again, and he's never made all his apologies or made all his amends in his life. So now he's going to do it perfect, and everyone he apologizes to, he ruins their lives. So, and I won't tell you what the climactic moment is, but he doesn't. You'll see it 2 years from now, hopefully here. But yeah, that's what's next.